welcome to this episode of the must-know blockchain use cases. Today, we're going to talk about the metaverse and the different layers of the metaverse. Before we get started, a quick introduction. My name is Tim Bailey. I head up the international business for Red Day Technology, and we have a number of panelists with us here today to talk about the topic. I'm going to ask each of them to introduce themselves and what company they work for. So Chris, let me start with you.
Yeah, hello, my name is Chris Ebeling. I'm a co-founder and creative director of Virtually Human Studio. It's an Australian-based company where we focus on the future of entertainment. We focus on the Web3 space. So we're building a couple of projects, which is our contribution to the metaverse, which we'll discuss today. One of them is Z.Run, which is a horse racing ecosystem where users and our community can buy, breed, race, sell, and create championship winning stables in a digital horse racing world, as you can see behind me, if you can see my screen. Futuristic setup, of course, it's a digital layer that sits on ours. Democratizing racehorse ownership. We're also building another game called Park.io, which is all about self-expression, community, co-creation, and agency, which of course are some of the main points I feel in the metaverse, as well as another project called Animura, which is a more of a strategic pixelated game, also using NFTs and digital asset ownership to give back to the communities and players.
Great, thank you, Chris. Welcome. Shangqi?
Yeah, thanks, Tim. I'm Shangqi. I'm from South. Currently, I serve as the head of South Hong Kong market unit. And South, we all know we are a leading global technology consultancy that integrates strategy, design, and software engineering to enable our customers thrive for their digital transformation journeys. And for the past years, I and my team, we mostly focused on the blockchain Web3 space. So likely to participate into some building stuff here. So glad to be here to talk more about the metaverse, topic, quite interesting.
Qian?
Thank you, Tim. I also from Thoughtworks, China, and I'm now the tech principal of the blockchain BU. So yeah, my main focus areas is definitely blockchain area, and also as well as Web3. And also I focus on the human interface with the underlying blockchain system, like how to enable the Web2 user to migrate from the Web2 to Web3 smoothly. Yeah, this current my current position in Web3 and the metaverse. Thank you.
Thank you. Yifan?
Yeah, thank you, Tim. I'm a colleague of Tim Bailey. I'm the CEO and the founder of Red Day Technology. We are an infrastructure company. So we are one of the founding members of BSN, which is basically a blockchain-based infrastructure. So our mission actually is to bring blockchain technology to traditional IT worlds beyond cryptocurrency. So in today's discussion, I will be the one a little bit against the crypto, related content. So be ready. Thank you, Tim.
Good. Always good to have a little bit of a controversy and disagreement. So, Chris, let me start with you. Tell us from your perspective about the metaverse ecosystem and what you see happening right now.
Yeah, so I mean, the metaverse, of course, to understand what Web3 and this elusive metaverse is going to be, we have to also understand what Web2 did for us. Like to look backwards and see what opportunities were given through, the creation of, our TikTokers and YouTubers and Twitch streamers, and being able to express freedom of speech and actually create content and share it freely. It gave a lot of opportunities to people and users who chose to do so in that space. What I think is Web3 and the Metaverse is it's the next iteration. It's a 3D internet. It's a space where instead of jumping into a Discord or a Reddit page or on a little channel, we are going to have agency through avatars. We are going to be able to create together, collaborate together, and create these parallel communities that are sitting on top or below our reality. You'll probably be able to control things in the real world through these digital worlds where you walk around. The metaverse is really building for the future users, and again, looking at what the youth is doing and where they're spending their time today. Again, back to TikTok and how much time we're spending actually already on social media platforms and these digital devices. It's the natural next step where we, because of technology, because of the advances, if you look at something like Epic and Unreal Engine and what that does with its meta-humans and how easily we and tools we have access to create digital copies of ourselves that then now can be controlled through AR, VR, or standard gamification, your WASD keyboard and mouse. And these digital worlds are going to be spawning. So, it's still early. I just think we're still trying to figure out what it is. And, I think digital ownership is going to be key in these spaces because we're going to be spending a lot of time in these spaces. We're going to be having self-expression through what our avatar wears. And I think we're going to want to own those things using NFTs, for example, and being able to prove that we own those things. And, and it's also about interoperability. I think that's the key to making it like the internet, where we can actually transfer assets or ourselves as digital avatars through all these different worlds that then become connected. So there's a lot to uncover and a lot to unpack. We're doing our part at Virtually Human, creating a few IPs that are going to have interoperability within each other, but also working with other. So collaboration with other companies and partnerships are key as well.
Well, Chris, the interoperability point that you made is a really good one. I want to pause on that one for a second. Let's come back to it later. But Shangqi, I'd like to get your view of, Chris talked about the metaverse and the definition, and it's a bit elusive. And I think depending on who you talk to, you get a different answer. So Shangqi, I'd love to get your definition from a ThoughtWorks perspective.
Actually, that's interesting. In Thoughtworks, we even have arguments, about what is metaverse. Some people may say metaverse is all about the AR, VR gaming, and the way blockchain people we think it's more connected to the Web3, to the decentralized future of the digital world. And I think people may get different views, but recently, as another consultancy, McKinsey, they just released a report, very famous report named the Value Creation in Metaverse. I think they have quite comprehensive which they divide the metaverse into 4 categories, 10 layers. Among these, I think for the content, for the AR, VR device, for the platform infrastructure like the blockchain, the Web3, the infrastructure for identity and for payments, and for the underlying things like interoperability, like the safety and security. I think these concepts, put them all together, combines into the metaverse. But from the user perspective, I would say that's really immersive experience is quite critical to user. I think for most of users, they are not technical background. They may define metaverse as I can access these applications through a quite immersive application like gaming. I think that's the public perception of metaverse.
So, Qian, it sounds like Shangqi says that you even have debates within ThoughtWorks about what it is. Do you have a different view on what the metaverse is?
Yeah, actually, the metaverse, I would say that that's a big concept. So, it's a try to define the next generation of internet. It's what want to try to define this new concept. And actually, recently we know news that the Metaverse has published into the Times magazine, right? So it's a big news. That means, oh, probably the audience of the world, they will pay attention to this kind of concept. Okay, in my opinion, I would say, yeah, it's a big picture, and also it has several layers in this concept. Because I'm an engineer, so I'm very good at to separate the concept into several layers, because I think that can help us to clarify this buzzword. First, I think the Metaverse, they should be an open space. Means these allow free for the user to explore by themselves. So I would say, yeah, maybe the Metaverse, the first characteristic of the Metaverse should be a UGC environment. And of course, it's not a normal UGC, just like you paste the text or the video into the internet, right? It should be a 3D kind of world. This is the first layer. And the second layer, I would say, is about the spec computing, like the AR, VR, or other kind of devices. You have to, so you want, if we want to enter the digital world, I mean the Metaverse, the first thing is you need to provide an immersive experience, user experience to the users, right? So I would say the spatial computing will be the second layer. And the third layer, I would say, is a new business model. I call it, a lot of us call it a creator economy. That means actually a lot of users in Web2, in this traditional internet, they try to earn money by their habits, right? So I think this is a very early age of the creator economy. In the next generation of internet, this creator economy will be more popular. This is third layer, and the first layer, I would say, it should be a decentralized infrastructure. So it's as we know, the blockchain will be the foundation for the Web3 and the Metaverse, because it can support the decentralized architecture for the whole world, for the whole digital world. And of course, some concept like a technology, like a smart contract, can provide the functionality of a creator economy, because you can just define some smart contract and run it in the blockchain automatically. So I think that would be the foundation for the economy. Of course, besides this, I think that the most part of the Metaverse should be the human interfaces, and not just the VR and AR. I mean, for now, as the traditional internet user, they are getting used to accept their mobile app or their website in a browser. So it's hard to ask them just to migrate from the current user experience to the next generation, right? So I think we need to provide this capability to help them, to enable them go through from the Web 2 to the Web 3. So I would call this is a human interface layer, and it's not just a very new composed with new technologies. It's just some bridge technology to help the user to accept how to get an entry into the Web3 or the Metaverse. That's it.
Okay, great, thank you. Yifan, the Metaverse, let's kind of contrast the Metaverse and the traditional internet. What do you see as the the big differences between metaverse and traditional internet?
Yeah, let me go back to your first question.
Okay.
It's easier to answer. So,
Okay.
actually, since actually I will answer both of them. Actually, from last year, I think last year the definition of metaverse is very messy. Okay, everybody have their definitions. Everybody think different. But slowly, we are. I think in small we will reach official definition of metaverse. So it's similar. My definition actually, very roughly divide them into two layers. Technically speaking, one is the front end. Okay, so I think the front end is just next level of our internet today. So it will change from a web page to a 3D environment, virtual environment, wherever. And the terminal will change from PC, phone to a, VR device, something like that. But it's only front end, what the end user can see, can feel. It's a very complicated technology, but that's why I say it's just front end, no different than a web page, just in a more advanced format or form. But let's say if this is metaverse, where the data is still in the traditional web, so-called Web 2 websites. Just imagine if Facebook eventually built into a virtual world where their data is still on Facebook.com. They definitely won't build another set of user management system, and you have to re-register, stuff like that. It's still Facebook. So that's actually what I think the huge difference is. Eventually, the metaverse will, won't be only built on this kind of private IT system. Actually, we call all those IT systems private IT systems. It belongs to Facebook. It belongs to Google, right? Even if you generate some content there, read through the user agreement, that copyright probably doesn't even belong to you. It belongs to Facebook. Even your password belongs to them. So that's actually the problem with the Web 2, with the back-end private IT systems. That's why actually, with the similar concept of Web3, we are promoting the idea of public IT system. We really need to move some data to the public IT systems so users can control their own data. So we consider the blockchain technology as one type of operating system to build this kind of public IT system. It doesn't belong to anyone. It belongs to a group of people. We share the rights together. So remember, then when you build a database there, it becomes a public database. It could be a decentralized NFT-based database structure. So just imagine you can build, for example, Facebook can build a virtual world, virtual city in their back-end database. It's easy. They can build it today even. But that database doesn't interact with Google's user, Microsoft's user. It's basically just there alone. But imagine they move that database into a public IT system. So which means that database now can be shared with 100 other websites and metaverses. Then basically, if you build a virtual city there, you can live, a user from Facebook can live next door to a Microsoft user. They get off of their home and they meet, in the hallway and they can chat. So that's actually what Chris said, interoperability. That's what connecting different metaverse, different user group, different backend system. But how you achieve that, you need something called public IT system. So of course, it also can be called Web3, right? But because Web3 is a term from crypto industry, so I don't like it. So we renamed the public IT system. Of course, in the public IT system, it just store and operates data. This data could be a cryptocurrency. It could be a digital currency, central bank digital currency. It could be a digital asset. It just could be pure data. So that's why. But the only technology today can be used to build this kind of public IT system is called blockchain. That's the only technology existing today. It's very stupid, with very awkward, even very, very slow, but that's the best we have. So that's why personally, I think, the metaverse will be, the front end will really, really evolve in next 10 years, become so powerful. It will take like, 1 minute to copy you into the virtual world, just, build the model just like exactly like yourself into the virtual world. That powerful. And the back end system, the public IT system, the blockchain technology also will evolve to become much, much more efficient, much handles, 500,000, TPS, can store very, very complicated data structure. I personally, I even think a consensus will be gone from the most of the blockchain operating system because it's too slow. So it will become some kind of like a private consensus. Just 3 of you nodes reach some kind of like a coda, R6 coda. So that's why I think, the technology, how that 2 layers and how they evolve eventually.
Okay. So you said you're really talking 2 layers, right? The front end, the experience layer, and the back end, which is, where the data is stored and how it's shared.
Yeah, for the back end, actually, there's 2 choices. One is still their, private system, because, most data still there. It's Facebook definitely won't, put everything. But for some data, it could be even required by law, by regulations. I think in 20 years, European Union will pass legislation, prohibiting any private IT system to store user data. It should be on a metaverse kind of public IT system controlled by the user itself. If you need the user, call their data vault and get permission and get the data. So for any IT system, metaverse, they actually have 2 ways to design their system. Some data goes to the backend private system, some go to the public IT system. So that put them together, become the back end of the metaverse.
Okay, good. Let's go. So Yifan, you talked about the interoperability, and Chris brought it up as well. Chris, talk a bit more about how you see interoperability and what specifically you're doing on some of the experiences and the platforms that you're working on.
Yeah, first off, I just want to say Yifan's thinking is awesome. Really, really, I even took some notes because I think what you're saying there is that public and private IT system is going to be like a hybrid version where companies are going to decide what they want to share and then make interoperable and what not. I think the big and another thing to that as well is we're still very, very early. Like blockchain is slow. And it's like, and again, I like to look in the past when the internet first came out. We're at a stage.
It was very, very slow.
Dial-up internet, right? Yeah. And so that's where we are with blockchain at the moment as well. So yes, it's going to take some time. I'll be interested to ask Yifan how long time he thinks it's going to take before we reach this kind of nirvana world where there's hybrid sharing, because yeah, companies have to come to the table as well and want to share and want to work together, which I think is really, really the big challenge, is having Facebook work with Google, having, and bringing in Epic, I think Epic are the easy ones there. I think they'll play with anybody because they act, and their cadence is being super interoperable. But to answer your question, Tim, we're building a horse racing ecosystem. Of course, it's standalone at the moment. It's our own ecosystem, but what we are looking to do is work with other partners to bridge the gap. So, for example, you could bring a Z-Run horse into Decentraland or in Sandbox, for example, right? Like that's the first baby steps of interoperability. It's not what Yifan is talking about, like that nirvana, but it's moving the needle into that direction and exploring and testing. Within our own IPs, we can of course do it much easier because we're building our own in-house IPs. So between an ecosystem like Zed Run and an ecosystem, which is Human Park, which are two completely different kind of ecosystems, we can actually bridge the gap easier because it's all our IP. It's all on our, private IT system. But, using blockchain, of course, we just want to give ownership back to our users so they are able to take out and extract what they want. And then through time and through, again, collaboration with other companies, we're looking to, of course, find ways that we can then bring and bridge the gap between these metaverses so they're not siloed off. They actually all are interoperable. And to your point, Yifan, like we walk out of one metaverse and I meet you coming out of another and we can just exchange and walk back in. So like different realms and different,
Yes. Yeah.
but playing together, that's the thing. The collaboration is key, not just from a user level, but from a creator level and the people who are actually building these projects. We actually have to work together, and I think that's the biggest challenge, perhaps.
Exactly.
I mean, it sounds a bit when you talked about the internet, it's a bit like, early on in the internet, you had these so-called walled gardens, right? Like AOL. But that was kind of an early instantiation of the internet, these walled gardens that you had to stay in there. And it's once you got, standards, common internet standards, that you got this interoperability across different websites and different experiences. And it sounds like what you're saying, Yifan and Chris, is that the metaverse will evolve there at some point.
Yeah, and I think what you're saying there is history does repeat itself, and we do have to look backwards. Like just look at the NFT bubble or the crypto bubble we're in, the winter we're in now. I mean, that's historic repetition, right? That's we knew that was coming. Self-regulation, right? So
right. Or as someone said, history doesn't repeat itself, but it often rhymes. And I think
I like that better. Yeah.
Shangqi, maybe could you talk a little bit about, Thoughtworks is I understand it, very involved in developing solutions for clients. Can you talk a little bit about some of the work that you may be doing in the metaverse and what types of things you're building or planning to build?
In Thoughtworks, actually, we get involved into. So I think Qian may be better, answer for me because he's currently working on I would say a simple government-sponsored project that is trying to encouraging the creator economy that we're trying to build that with Metaverse and Web3. I think Qian can explain more details than me.
Yeah, actually, I go back to the question, the big difference between the traditional internet and the metaverse. I would say the first challenge or the biggest significant difference is our mindset. Because I just finished a project with our client. We are working on build a Web3 enabled platform to have their artists and their fans to engage in that platform. So we try to use borrow some concepts from the Web3, but we found, it's a little hard to apply these concepts. So why I think why that is so hard? I think this should be the mindset. It's not just for the user; it's also for the creator and our client, their startup company, the new technology startup company. So, as a startup company, we will try to use some existing methodology to run their business, like the lean startup, this methodology, right? So after we do the testing experiments with our potential users, we get the results. The user, they are not quite interested in NFT or any concept of Web3. So with this result, it's hard to persuade ourselves to continue build a product around the Web3 or the NFT kind of stuff. Yes, I think this is the single difference between we do the project for Web 2 or Web 3, between the Web 2 and the Web 3. I think, yeah, we are in the very early age, so we need to have some time to educate the user and learn from the user. Try to enable them to accept the concept of Web3 or NFT or some kind of new technology in the metaverse. So I think the first difference is the mindset. It's for both of them. I mean, the users and the creator. And also, I think another difference is in the underlying system. So I will talk about the blockchain because I know the current scenario we build for the blockchain is quite limited, actually. But with the Web3 or Metaverse, we try to expand the scenario, the application scenario for the blockchain, okay? So currently we have some project with our client. It's a government client. So we try to build a self-several identity. Actually, we talked this topic before, right? And with this project, I think it's quite important for the underlying system. I mean, we can leverage the capability of the blockchain to build a digital identity for the user. The digital identity or identity is quite important or quite critical in the metaverse. As we know, that Elon Musk already pushed the memory or something into the cloud, right? And he already talked with himself in the cloud. So I believe in the future we will have a digital identity in the cloud or in the digital world, but probably we will build that in the blockchain, because the blockchain is trying to have us have the internet to build a layer for the digital trust or the identity. I mean, it's trying to build a layer. This layer can enable every packet of the data to have a signature. That means you can data. Okay, so this is another project, and I learned something from this project.
I think beyond Qian's point, because Qian's talking about concrete project, I think we do have some like engagements that requires from clients or our internal ID, which doesn't mean it's already come to our realm, but it's very early stage. For example, one property group in China, they do request a project. It's more like they're gonna to have a new property, and they're gonna to design, they plan to design a digital twin version of their physical property land, and they have similar infrastructure, and they're gonna selling the land on the virtual world. It's quite like the sandbox decentralized, and because that's not legal in China mainland nowadays, so they stop at that point. But we do have requests from clients that want to explore their digital property business, and also in Thoughtworks we have some clients that request for the for example, the meeting through the metaverse. We do see some big clients that they want to invest more on their internal virtual meeting experience. And also in early days this year, Thoughtworks we host a global service jam in Hong Kong. But during that time, the pandemic is quite serious, and we decided to move it online, and we choose a platform that allows people to have an avatar on the digital world and to interact in a more smooth way to have better engagement. So we do see clients requests for the metaverse for the meeting and the remote work. That's quite because I don't know if the ROI could fit their financial plan, but we do see the request from the client. So obviously beyond the more concrete, like like the digital asset based, like the chair mentioned, we do see some very emerging requests that want to combine the the modern tech, especially for the experience technology, with their trying to emerging into their new business.
Good. We talked about blockchain a bit, but there are also other, new technologies, coming in, 3D engines, virtual reality, artificial intelligence. Maybe Chris, could you talk a little bit about, how you see these new technologies being integrated or involved in the metaverse, and also are there any limitations that we're seeing from a technology perspective?
Well, I think the limitations are always, every time we get a higher powered PC, we always push it to its limits. So if we put 100 people into Fortnite, then we will do it, and we will push it to the limits. And then if we're we get higher computing power and we can push 500, we will do that. So it always comes back to, I think, the computing power. But in terms of the technologies, mixed reality, the early days of Magic Leap and the HoloLens, which aren't consumer facing, but those kind of technologies are super powerful if you've played with them. It's having a computer on your head, but the goal, of course, and which I think Apple and Facebook and Google, of course, are looking at, are making them consumer friendly, so they will end up like glasses that you're wearing, Tim, perfectly situated, and then maybe tapping into cloud rendering, so you can compute and see and extract things from the metaverse, or the digital realm of the metaverse, because the metaverse is both, into your reality. Like I mentioned, Epic Games, Unreal 5, I'm sure all of you have seen the demos and seen the amazing things and tools that are now accessible for anybody who has a decent PC, can download Unreal and get a metahuman and bring in some Quixel scans, and create amazing environments, almost photoreal. It's still uncanny valley, but like to Yifan's point, the future will be where you can scan yourself quickly and have a digital copy very fast. Now, when that is, I don't know, but if you've played with things like Midjourney AI or DALL-E, again, these things are super scary, because as I'm a former digital artist from a traditional sense, concept art now have to not be good at just drawing, they have to be good at actually directing a computer to draw for them. And when, the next iteration of that is going to be, I want a digital horse, I want it to be 30,000 polygons, fully rigged, it needs to have 90 bones and let's say 30 controllers, 4 texture atlases, et cetera, et cetera. Like, you'll be able to now tell the computer to just generate 3D objects for you, and it's just going to go, and within a minute you'll have a fully rigged 3D character. And the next iteration of that, of course, is you can add sound, you can add dynamics, you can add environment. So now we're getting into this stage where we're directing computers versus directing artists, and we have to be very aware that that's what's happening. And I think when I saw Midjourney for the first time, that's what blew my mind, is when can I make a fully short movie just directed by computers? And that's going to happen. So we are at this cusp of growth. And again, I'll always say, look backwards to see where we came from, in the early days, and how fast we're moving. We're going to experience that trajectory now. In terms of performance and when that's going to happen, like, I worked a lot in the AR, VR space, and I've worked a lot with students preparing them for the future. There is going to be a call for content once these headsets and devices are consumed, right? I think last Christmas, the Oculus Quest 2 was the highest selling hardware, which is a sign of people are getting these devices into their homes. The next iteration of that, of course, is the mixed reality AR glasses. Famously known from the Pokemon Go really put AR on our map, and since then we have been building in those spaces. So for us, and Virtually Human, aware of that. So we are building, digital horse racing. We did have a test on a HoloLens with horses running through your room or down the street, which is super fun. Consumers are not ready there yet, but we have to, as builders, anticipate the future and try to understand when everybody is wearing AR glasses, we're ready for them, and everybody else should be ready for them as well. So that's a long-winded answer, and maybe you got some of it there. But
yeah, that's great. Yifan, what do you think about these the new technologies, like as Chris was talking about, the VR, AI, 3D engines? I know you have some gaming experience in your past, so you may have a point of view on this.
Yes, I have been playing games since I was 6. 1982 in China, playing games. Play the game. I owned every single console, including ours. So, but the one thing I always ask myself, what will replace cell phones as a terminal for the future human beings? I think it's a glass. You know, but basically all the phone calls, all the videos, everything goes, the phone will be gone. Okay, then you'll see everything in a 3D if you choose to, you know, please the button, it becomes 3D, click a button back to reality, you know, so that kind of thing. That's the only thing I can think about will replace a phone. Okay, so that's how important what Chris just said. You know, it's so important, it's the future, it's no doubt, it's the future. But for the hardware, it's really hard to develop. Okay, I use you know the one I use the most is a PlayStation one. It's a little bit lower quality, but you know it's really hard to use. I play a game is Resident Evil, okay, 7. You know that it's really scary. But I also sometimes I wanted to puke. You know it's so dizzy. You know it's kind of stuff. But that's the future. It should be, personally, I think in 3 years to 5, maximum 5 years, this should be a consumer grade, and it should be seamlessly to run a lot of things, like a phone, like a call, 3D call, and you can join like our discussion, right? Just wear a glass. You know, I don't need this big laptop here. So that's definitely the future. But of course, next layer, you really need a very good 3D engine, right, to program everything on. So personally, I think, you know, if you guys want to invest in some public company, go to the gaming engine company, like Epic. Okay, like, you know, those companies definitely got a future, because just imagine they will become the web server one day. You know, which means any content you want to build is built on them. Not only web server, you know, the Linux operating system is also on a virtualized 3D engine. You know, when you go to AWS, it's no longer purchase a virtual machine with a Linux operating system. You should also choose a graphic or 3D engine. You know, then there will be programming languages for high school students to build their small virtual worlds, like building a website today. So that's under the cloud business will become so powerful. So always follow AWS, good investment. Okay, always. Okay, so that's why I think the whole technology will go. So it's but of course, let me add my public IT system, link everybody together. Okay, and one job for next year from us, from BSN, is we want to launch the non-crypto public chains, because we believe in public chain. We really hate the crypto is on layer 1. It actually stopped all other traditional IT systems for using the public chains. You know, no one is using public chain. No one. Can you give me one example outside crypto? No. So that's why, you know, we are going to launch the non-crypto public chains and invite all the traditional IT system, you know, to connect to it and play around it and enjoy, and at least like Chris, you know, for people to understand the concept, at least, you know, the public chains today, it's you know, once we launch, in 3 months, they will crash. I guarantee you, because there will be more traffic than any crypto public chains, you know, because of people, you know, throw garbage on because it's so cheap. It's like you're paying $1, you can, mint like 100, NFTs. So everybody will try, it will crash. But those crashes will help those public chains evolve into a better operating system. So that's what we're trying to start by end of next month. Okay, a long journey, and we won't make any money because it's so cheap, and we put a lot of investment into this. So that's, but it's also fundamentally that's very, very important, because today the public chains don't support that kind of dream we have, that kind of metaverse we just discussed.
Okay. So Yifan, maybe you can talk a little bit about, what are the challenges, right, to get to the metaverse? There's lots of different visions. You've got a lot of companies working on it. What are the challenges?
I actually totally agree with Chris. The first one is for the major companies working together. Okay, those guys, if they don't work together, they will become the barriers for the smaller company to break through, because they don't want to invest a lot of money on your technology. They think probably will fail one day. So they will wait until those smaller companies build something, then they probably just, acquire those companies on the technology. Those guys, they need working together to pull in resources into the research and the development. Okay, this is very, very important. It's like all the, where internet came from, is from Pentagon, right? You need someone to invest this without a clear picture. But with next 5 years, 10 years, we really do. If without Google, Facebook, Microsoft, all those guys, AWS, all those guys involved, this will be like a, from 5 years to 10 years. Just for the smaller company working together and convince everybody, this is the future. It will take. But if they work together, this becomes 3 years. Okay, that's very, very important. And the second one is people need working on not only the applications, more people need to involve in the fundamental technologies. Because building applications always make quick money. People understand it, people purchase it, so building infrastructure like blockchain technology, just how to make that to handle 100,000 TPS. That's why I, when there's a RV device, I already just purchase them. I don't even use most of them, just for, give some money into the industry, because they lose a whole lot of money, all those guys, including PlayStation, HTC, Facebook, Meta actually lost like 20 billion. On those things. So let's help them, purchase something from them, help them to develop those fundamental technology. Don't give up. Okay, this is the future. Don't give up.
Chris, what do you see are some of the barriers? You both talked about the need to work together within the industry. What are the other barriers you see, and how do we overcome them?
Well, yeah, I think we're still early. So if we're going to speak about, I'll talk about something that we're building, so it's, games, blockchain gaming. So, the barrier to blockchain is still not familiar with a standard like free-to-play app on a mobile phone where you can quickly jump in and play, right? So I think Yifan or some of the other guests, they mentioned this as well. We have to kind of conceal all the heavy lifting underneath and make it the human approach, the human design of these technologies, so it's easy to use. There's a term called time to fun that we use a lot. And how do you make, we're making an application, but how do you make an application quick and smooth for users so he or she can just jump in and get and be and activate and play your experience, right? But right now with cryptocurrency and using that within gaming, you have to have a MetaMask. You have to do your whole KYC before you get some crypto. Then you have to have a MetaMask wallet. You have to put money over there. Then you have to go into the game, and then you have to use their user wallet, put the funds over there before you can start. There's already too many steps. And if research has shown us anything, our attention spans as humans has gone from, I think, 12 seconds down to 7 seconds. I mean, we can barely watch a YouTube video that's longer than 2 minutes, if longer than 30 seconds. If Netflix starts to roll the red, we get frustrated because the internet's slow, right? So we are also being conditioned as humans, and I think in terms of human design, we have to be aware of who we're targeting and where and what the condition of us humans are when we design. So there's a barrier for us, which is making time to fun. How do you get? Because how are we gonna? I think also, I can't remember if it was Qian or one of you mentioned the transition, and I really love that. We have to actually familiarize and create like heuristic experiences where we actually transition people from Web 2 to Web 3 and educate them along the way. So we need actually a Web 2.5 model where it's a bit more familiar and understanding with today's applications, and then building, slowly transitioning users across, instead of just throwing them in the deep end of something which is way too kind of, especially with everything I just said in terms of attention span and how we're changing. So that to me is a big concern. I think education is a big piece there.
That's why I hate TikTok. Okay, it's 15 seconds, always 15 seconds. You know, my daughters love to watch that. I say, okay, you can watch whatever you want, but read a book every single day. Okay, make the logical a little bit longer. You know, trust me. If you someone, if you know, they never watch TV, watch movie, they just TikTok for 3 months, let them book. They will fall in sleep in first 3 pages because they couldn't follow the logic, you know, too long. You know, that's you know.
It's critical, because we're being conditioned by these applications, and you're getting, you know, you get caught in there. Even Instagram is introducing it, has introduced it, YouTube have introduced it. And it's all, you know, again, we know that all these companies are fighting for your attention, and they just want to keep you there.
Yeah.
And so
and let you watch more advertisement as possible. So they,
there you go.
Shangqi and Qian, what do you guys think about the barriers? What do you see from your perspective?
I think I can give another viewpoint for perspective for the barriers, because in my personal developer experience, I found if I want to build a product or build an application over Web3, the first things is quite difficult for me is I need to figure out what the underlying system I'm gonna use. For example, if I want to mint the NFT, we do have a lot of options or candidates. You know, it's quite a, we don't have the quite a confidence to just choose one, because we need to consider the cost and the learning curve and something else. So I would say for a developer who wanna build a product over Web3, the first thing is how do you know how to have then to choose the suitable tech stacks. This is the more concrete barriers for the developers actually. Because I just did some, I spent a lot of time to explore the candidates for the blockchain and for the wallet, for everything related to the Web3. No one knows that in details, and no one is familiar with that. So it's quite a spend of our times to do the spiking kind of things. For now, recently, I would say I would like to see there have tools or services can speed them up, the progress up. That would be great. And it's my idea.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a more specific idea, which I think is currently the most critical barrier for the metaverse is, the interoperability of 3D models, because it's interesting. Because when we talk about the Web3, the NFT, we talk about the ownership of the data for the user, for their own asset, for the interest of creator. Actually, we still have only limited data, on the blockchain to have some digital digits as represent the digital asset. But I don't think from the user perspective they're gonna accept that. And also, I think Yifan just raised a very interesting idea that even if they change their company name to Meta, and they can publish very nice game, and Microsoft they can publish very good fabulous game and have those very comprehensive 3D models, and because they are more centralized, and we as industry practitioners, we fundamentally we don't want to claim that is the future of metaverse. We think metaverse is a combine of multiple different multiverse, and we can connect different game, different application, different content through some interoperability consensus protocols. And but still, I see very huge gap. The huge gap is user can only recognize their digital asset, their asset in their game, their through the very very experienced way, like the 3D models. And I would say that the issue may not be the interoperability of 3D. The issue may we still don't have unified 3D engines across different application provider or gaming provider or content creator. We just don't have that standard. We don't have that filter scope right now, and we don't have enough network bandwidth to transfer the 3D models from the server to the user's headset. And fundamentally, we underlying blockchain infrastructure, we just don't have enough throughput or storage for that. And that result into that we just don't have enough interoperability of 3D models. That is a result. That is not a reason. But I would say if we can resolve this result, obviously we can see a very bright future of metaverse.
Good. So we're just about out of time. I want to ask one final question, and it's a very simple question with a very short answer, and I'd like to get input from each of you on, how many years will it take or months before the metaverse becomes mainstream, and meaning, the majority of people in the developing world are using the metaverse and interacting with it. So, Yifan, I'm going to start with you.
By your definition, smartphone has not reached that stage yet. It will take another 10 years for smartphone to be mainstream. Okay, so
let's assume that smartphones are a mainstream technology. Let's use that.
Okay. So achieve similar life. Personally, I think at least 5 years. 5 years will be probably reach the cell phone in 2010. Okay, 5 years. Then reach today, probably 10 years from this year.
Okay. What do you think?
It's a hard question to answer, because actually, I would like to talk more about the Web3 other than Metaverse. I have a confidence on Web3, but I don't have the quite a confidence for the Metaverse, because the Metaverse is so big. It's based on the science fictions. So yeah, like the Snow Crash, the book. So for the Web3, I would say in 5 years, there will be a mainstream, because everyone know we need to build something. And actually, for now, the recent signal also tell us a lot of big company and the startup company, they try to achieve some goals in Web3. Okay, so I have confidence in 5 years, the Web3 will be the mainstream. But for the metaverse, I would say, I don't know. I don't want to give a prediction for that.
Okay. Shangqi, what about you?
I may say maybe over 10 years for metaverse for majority. Or we're still we are not even in the early majority phase. We're in the innovator phase. Because if we look backwards for the metaverse, for the concept, for the technology, actually we are standing on top of the the technology development for years. We have AR, VR tech for years. We have 3D rendering, this gaming technique since last century, and we still not reached that level yet. So I would say people usually overestimate the technology effect and underestimate the long-term effect of technology. So I would say the 10 years for the metaverse enter the majority usage may be a good bet.
Okay, great. Chris, you get the last word here.
Lucky last. Thank you. So I love that Qian brought up the fictional representations, Snow Crash, Ready Player One. Love it. And again, I think to answer the question, you have to understand that what is the end goal? I think humans will always add and add and add and add and add. And we get to the moon, we want to go to Mars. We go to Mars, we want to go further. Are we ever content? However, let's just say the end goal is Ready Player One, then I think, we've got a long way to go. I think I'll just throw a number, 20 years. But instead of looking at things like, fictional representations, let's look at the practical ones, which we're living in today, which are like Roblox, Fortnite, Grand Theft Auto. These are already signs of the metaverse without the interoperability, without the NFT ownership, but there's self-expression, there's co-collaboration, and there's 100 million users a day between all these applications. So it's already there in some form of fiction. It's about how do we layer the Web3 components on top of that and how long it's going to take. I agree with Juan and Shangqi. I think Web3, 5 years. But then I think Metaverse is 10 to 20, and then it's also what are we going to do when we get quantum powered PCs, et cetera, and we keep evolving with the technology stack behind it. We're going to keep adding layers and layers to it. So maybe it will end up like the Matrix.
Yes,
Okay.
That's what I always think about the Matrix. That's the final stage, which means 24 hours we are in a virtual world. That's the final stage.
But the question there is whether we know we're in a virtual world or not.
There you go.
They don't know.
That's a separate webinar.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Thanks everyone. I appreciate everyone's participation in today's webinar, and look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you.